saw this car at the swap meet, and it was just bone stock. And I saw this thing and I was freaking out. I fell in love with it. It was just a goofy car. LS Fest they started doing the Australian style burnout contest, and I always thought the nationals in Australia were the coolest thing in the world, you know, the burnout contest. So I wanted to do that. So that's kind of what I built this thing to do, is do the burnout contest. So put it all together, took the LS Fest, and it got the brand new set of tires completely blown off, so it was pretty cool. Obviously cool motors, and this thing came out pretty wild. It's something different. My name's Tim Grillot. I'm the engineering director for Holley Performance. I manage an awesome team of engineers that develop all the new products that all of our enthusiasts get to play with and have fun with. So I have the pleasure of getting to be the ringleader of all the greatness that comes from the engineering team at Holley. We identify problems that a lot of enthusiasts have, and a lot of it's through doing stuff like this. We all have our own cars and our own projects and stuff, and so we get to get a feel of what things can be better in the industry, and we get to put our brains to work and go out and make new stuff to make everybody's stuff work better. I was actually born in rural Iowa, out in the gravel roads, and just grew up, you know, as soon as I could walk almost, I had go-karts and three-wheelers and dirt bikes, and bought my first car when I was 13. It was a 1978 Mercury Bobcat station wagon, and I bought it just to learn how to work on a car. High school, I got into drag racing. I bought a couple third-gen Camaros and started drag racing them, and got into playing with off-road stuff and thought Toyotas were cool for a while. Started doing a little tough truck racing, so I traveled around the country and working at McDonald's and parting up Toyotas to pay for it, and met Holley through a 65 fastback Mustang that I built a long time ago. Took it on power tour, had a 4.6 liter mod motor in it, turbocharged Ford Cobra motor. You know, that car ended up on that trip, ended up getting on the cover of Hot Rod, so it was a really cool thing for me as just a kid that was building cars out of his garage to end up with a car on the cover of Hot Rod. And then meeting the CEO of Holley, and it was all like a dream. And so I had that car for a while, and then I sold it. Was still doing the NMRA thing, racing with people, and we were actually in Bowling Green at an NMRA race at Beach Bend, and I saw this car at the swap meet. The engine itself, I started with an LSX block. This is a perfect example of things going way out of control. The original thought process was kind of do the whole popular grab a junkyard 6 liter, and I was going to put one of just a 671 or 871 on it, and it went full stupid from there. Ended up doing none of that, and started with an LSX block, and that led to, well, let's put some good parts in it. So I got a Callie's center counterweighted crankshaft, Callie's rods, diamond pistons, you know, kind of the best of the best. Airflow Research heads on it, LS3 style heads, and then you know, the intake choices were kind of limited to put a blower on here, so I ended up paying one of my engineers on the side to CAD design an intake, and we did a billet, custom one-off billet intake for it, and then, you know, I did all that, and at that point it made sense to put a 1471 on it. So it's got a 1471 high helix supercharger on it. It's all fuel injected. We use obviously all Holley EFI stuff, and it got to be a test bed for a lot of the products that came out with over the last year and a half. Built the whole motor in my office over about a year and a half, and our injector driver box, we did a lot of development on this with. We did development on our 80 GT measurement box on this. So it got to be a cool thing to have around that we test fit things up for applications like this. Some Earl's products we developed on here. We got some cool water coolant passage things that go on the front of the motor that we developed on this thing. If there was something that I couldn't do on this thing, that means we need to develop a product for it. So that's the cool thing about our jobs, is like we get to work on our own stuff, and it like pretty much leads us right, you know, we walk hand in hand with ourselves into what our consumers need. Obviously this is a little bit higher end than what a lot of our consumers do, but there's still a lot of stuff on here that people use. So it made it really easy having a lot of the stuff we already have. You know, this thing's covered with our own product. That surge is something, it's actually something you can tune out with Holley EFI, but I grew up in the 90s, and blower surge was just cool. You know, that was one of my things, you know, going to car shows as a kid. You know, when you heard a blower car surging like crazy, you know, I thought that was cool. You know, a lot of people, you know, they want to clean it all up, and actually I can in this. There's 2 modes where I can clean it up. I have a clean idle or surge and idle, but the surge, it's just, all it is fuel going through the rotors. So as the rotors spin, it's just a rich lean condition from the fuel dumping in on the rotors. But with the EFI, like I said, you can tune that out completely, but I like to have it in there because I think it sounds cool. right now, you know, the Sniper products we've come out with the last couple of years, the Terminator X stuff, again, we're trying to make it easy for people. Carburetors are awesome. I think there's always going to be a need and people that want to use carburetors, but EFI is awesome too. So we're constantly trying to improve on making the lives easier of our consumers. We have a lot of iconic brands. We have, you know, with Holley EFI, MSD, Race Pack, and all the capabilities of those brands. We really want to look at the power of what we can do moving forwards, and we're looking at it through the eyeballs of the consumer.